used a lot. One of those words, Jersey Strong. Another word, resilience. And resilience means a lot of things to a lot of different people. To some people, being resilient meant just getting through the past year, and we heard a little bit about that. To me, when I say the word resilience, I mean something into the future. I mean beyond the next storm, beyond the next 20 storms, something where we're greater because we've planned ahead. There's a group of partners that I've been working on thinking through these resilience challenges, and I offer kind of this 4-step approach to thinking about what resilience means to local communities in the future. The first one we've heard a little bit about today is understanding the issues. Some of our earlier speakers talked a little bit about Barrier Island migration. This picture sort of sums it up. It's the southern end of Long Beach Island. The non-built side Colgate is moving, and the rest of the island is being held in place. And when we put our communities in place and we don't let them be dynamic systems anymore, risk comes with that decision. And adaptation needs to follow that, because we need to be able to adapt to what that condition means. The next thing in our step for being more resilient is understanding what that risk looks like on the ground. We've heard a lot about FEMA's preliminary map information, and John Miller summarized this before lunch really well. That data that FEMA is providing to us now is a lot better than it used to be. It's built off a lot better information. But at the end of the day, the information that goes into that model is still based on past storm patterns. It's like you're driving down the road and continually only looking in the rearview mirror. When we use those maps to plan ahead, we're only looking backwards. So we need to work with communities to look forward. And sometimes those choices are hard. If I took information like these graphs to a community and said, here's a graphic about information on the stock market, and tell me what you think, those communities would say, wow, the data's really clear. It's that I want to buy into that stock. It's a clear trend upward. But for some reason, when we add sea level graphics around it, we're still not ready to take an important step forward and say, I believe in this. This is something we need to take action on. Well, at Rutgers, we're here to help you with that. It's hard to visualize what a foot by 2030 is going to look like, or a foot and a half by 2050, or over 3 feet by 2100. It's hard to understand what that's going to look like. But our scientists at Rutgers and those of us at the Reserve have been dealing with this issue. We have a website called the New Jersey Flood Mapper. It's been out on the street for about a year now, and we hope it's helping local communities make the important planning decisions that we need to into the future. The website shows where critical facilities are located, and when you add sea level rise using our slider bar at the top, you can see where those facilities are at risk into the future. You can look at on-the-ground impacts from 0 feet of rise up to 6 feet of rise. You can see them both from an aerial perspective looking down and from a straight-on perspective. So here's 0 feet, and if you go ahead and bump it up to 5 feet, you can see how that picture changes. We include the FEMA data. It's important. People are talking about this. They are making planning decisions about this information. We provide it so that people can compare with what the FEMA maps show versus what our future sea level scenarios show. And on top of those graphics, we've added Sandy surge data. So with a click of a mouse, you can see how that data compares to what Sandy did. We also know that our natural resources are playing a really important role and should continue into the future. So we show where marshes are going to be able to migrate westward in the future, or where they're going to be impeded and drowned moving ahead into the future, so that communities can think now about buying open space and allowing for those natural systems to thrive. The next step is planning. So taking that risk awareness and putting it into a planning mechanism. And a group of partners have been working on this as well. Planning right now, at least for the past year, has taken the form of, well, we'll just raise everything, and maybe that will help. And that's going to help the houses, but what about the infrastructure for the community? What about the stormwater systems, the wastewater systems, the roadways to get the residents out of those homes when the streets are flooded? We are still not talking about those issues. It has to go beyond just raising houses. To that end, a group of partners have been working on a website called Getting to Resilience. And it's a community evaluation process where local leaders sit down together and evaluate where their town in thinking about these issues of coastal hazards, risk, and sea level rise. What the website helps you do is look across your municipal plans, your master plan, your evacuation plan, etc. The plans are on the screen. And it brings a group of municipal members together to look at these issues as a group. So often in municipalities, we think hazard mitigation is just an OEM or a fireman's job. And this mechanism, this evaluation process, actually starts marrying all the municipal members together to look at the plans that a town has, because it's not just about one person's job. It's not just about the public works person or the clerk or the floodplain manager. Towns need to start working together to deal with these issues. The online website asks you a series of questions. They're all yes and no kind of questions, and it deals with 5 different topics. The first topic is risk and vulnerability assessment. There's a public engagement section, a planning integration section, a disaster preparedness and recovery section, and a hazard mitigation and implementation section. One of the questions asked in one of these sections is, are your municipal vehicles stored outside the floodplain? Seems like a really simple question, and you would think most communities would say yes to that. But there are communities that still store their hazardous and vehicles out in the floodplain. Another question is, are your files for your community backed up in a place other than just inside your municipality? And people can still say no to that question. So these are the kinds of questions that we promote through the website called Getting to Resilience at prepareyourcommunitynj.org. The most important part of the website, other than actually going through the evaluation, is that we cross-reference a bunch of really important programs to the evaluation. So after you're done submitting all your yes and no answers, you get a report at the end. And the report points out things to consider if you haven't already taken those actions. It points out where your actions are worth points through the community review system, and we've already heard about how valuable that program is. It points out some content suggestions for future hazard mitigation planning. It points out where actions are worth points through the Sustainable Jersey program. And not to forget about the important inland communities that also deal with flooding challenges. They're not coastal flooding challenges, but they're still flooding challenges. We provide inland solutions and suggestions as well. The last step in my resilience process is about implementing and adapting. So taking all the great risk information, all the planning only goes so far. Chris talked about this. It's really about the doing. It's about the implementing. On the screen, I show a living shoreline. This is one form of implementing, helping to restore back our wetland systems so they can act as that natural barrier for us into the future. That's one implementation mechanism that we're hearing a lot more about right now. So in conclusion, maybe a year from now we can stand here and we can talk about Resilience 2.0. And by that I mean it's beyond this past year. It's looking into the future. It's a new form of resilience where maybe we can talk about the communities that have taken a step back and said, wait a minute, we really need to start thinking about this. It needs to be more than about just getting through the next storm. And it's hard work. It's not easy. It's not just about a 4-step process. But there are tons of groups right now that have staff, have support, and are willing to help communities through these challenges. So we're here to help, and we're here to help people redefine what resilience means to them. Thank you.